This is pre-algebra lesson 7-6, solving two-step inequalities. To solve two-step inequalities, you follow the same procedure as with two-step equations. However, you must remember that since it's an inequality and not an equation, if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must reverse the inequality symbol. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. If I have w plus 4 is greater than or equal to negative 5, I must try to isolate w all by itself. This happens to be a one-step equation, so we're going to start fairly simple and we get more complex. So to get w by itself, I need to subtract 4. Since they added 4, I will subtract 4. I'll subtract 4 from the left-hand side, I'll subtract 4 from the right-hand side. The 4's cancel out, giving me w is greater than or equal to negative 9. I will leave it as w is greater than or equal to negative 9 because I don't need to change my inequality sign because I didn't multiply or divide by a negative number. I just got a negative answer. Remember, we should graph these. Graph them on a number line. This is 0, and this is negative 10. Say this would be negative 9. It's greater than or equal to, so it's a filled-in circle. And since the w goes first, it's greater than, it goes to the right. Remember, if you put the variable first, this will point the direction your graph needs to go. Let's look at equation number 2, or inequality number 2. 7g plus 11 is greater than 67. The first thing I need to do is undo any addition or subtraction. They added 11, so I will subtract 11 from both sides. So that will be step 1. So I have 7g, the 11's cancel out, is greater than 67 minus 11 is 56. To get g by itself, they multiplied by 7. I will reverse that by undoing that by dividing by 7. So g is greater than 56 divided by 7 is 8. As 8 times 7 is 56. Therefore, g is greater than 8. On my lovely number line here, this is 0, this is 5, 6, 7, 8. Greater than is an open circle and a line going to the right. My next equation, 6 is less than or equal to negative 2/3 r minus 6. So the first thing I need to do is find whatever was done to r. If I look at it, I have negative 2/3 is multiplied by r, and then there's 6 is subtracted from r. So I need to undo addition and subtraction first. So I will add 6 to both sides. 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 is less than or equal to negative 2/3 r, because these cancel out. To get r by itself, I have to multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of negative 2/3 r is negative 3/2r, or negative 3/2 r. Okay, so if I do 12 over 1 and I multiply that by negative 3/2, over here on the side, the 3's cancel, the 2's cancel, and I get positive r. I did multiply by a negative, so my inequality sign must switch. So now it's going to point at the r. 2 goes into 12 6 times. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. So I have negative 18 is greater than or equal to r, or r is less than or equal to negative 18. Remember, I always suggest that you write it with the variable first, because then you're less likely to mess up which direction your graph should be graphed. So I'm less than or equal to negative 18, so this is 0. Whoops, I messed that up. This would be negative 18. Let's say this is 0. Less than or equal to negative 18 is a closed circle of negative 18. The line goes to the left. Problem number 4. 5a minus 9 is greater than 11. The first thing I need to do here is get rid of anything added or subtracted. They subtracted 9, so I will add 9 to both sides. The 9's cancel out, leaving me 5a is greater than 11 plus 9 is 20. Divide by 5. A is greater than 4. Now let's graph this. A is greater than 4 would be here. Closed, whoops, not a closed circle. I messed that up. Not a closed circle. So we have to put my line back. It's an open circle. And a line that it goes to the right, and it's greater than 4. Now, to solve word problems with inequalities, we have to remember a couple of important facts. At most means the greatest amount, which means less than or equal to. If I say I have at most $5 in my pocket, the largest amount of money I can have in my pocket is $5. I can have any amount of money less than $5, all the way up to $5, but at most I can have $5. At least, or the smallest amount, means greater than or equal to. If I say you have to get at least an 85% on my test in order to move to the next chapter, that means if you get an 84%, you're not moving to the next chapter. If you get an 86%, you are moving to the next chapter because the smallest grade you could get is an 85. So let's look at a couple of word problems. Dale has $25 to spend at the carnival. If the admission to the carnival is $4 and the rides are $1.50 each, what is the greatest number of rides you can go on? Well, with any word problem, the first thing we have to do is we have to define our variable. And normally the variable is defined by the question that's asked. We're asked to find the greatest number of rides. So I'm going to let x equal the number of rides. There's my variable. You always want to define your variable. Now, the cost of admission to get into the carnival plus the cost of my rides times the number of rides that I ride has got to be less than the $25 that I have. Because if I spend more than $25, I'm in trouble because I don't have it. Okay? So, admission, right? Plus rides is less than or equal to, how do I say it, is at most $25. Okay, so cost of admission, that's $4. Plus the cost of the rides. The rides are $1.50 each. We don't know how many rides we're going to ride, so we $1.50 times each ride that we ride. At most means, right, if you remember, at most means less than or equal to. And that's what at most means. And 25 means 25. So our inequality is 4 plus 1.50x is less than or equal to 25. If you'd like to rewrite that so it's a little neater, you can do that. 4 plus 1.50x is less than or equal to 25. Now, to solve this equation, or inequality, I need to get rid of anything added or subtracted. So the first thing I have to get rid of is 4. So subtract 4 from here, and subtract 4 from here. These will cancel, and I'll get 1.50x is less than or equal to 21. Divide by 1.50. I divide it by a negative number, so my inequality symbol will not switch. And 21 divided by 1.5 is 14. So, according to this, Dale can go on at most 14 rides. Or you could say Dale can ride 14 rides or less. It says the same thing. But you can't say Dale can ride 14 rides because he could ride less than that. So you need to say at most, or he can ride 14 rides or less. Next word problem. A stereo salesperson earns a salary of $1,200 a month, plus a commission of 4% of sales. The salesperson wants to maintain a monthly income of at least $1,500. So how much must a salesperson sell each month? Right? So again, I'm going to look at the question that they asked me to figure out. If I look at the question they asked me to figure out, it says how much must the salesperson sell? So I'm going to make X equal my monthly sales. Or I could just say sales. Now the salary plus the commission must be at least $1,500. So that's That's what I'm trying to figure out. The salary the salesperson makes is $1,200, plus the commission is 4% of all the sales. So change 4% to a decimal. Remember, 4% as a decimal is equal to 0.04. So we'll take 0.04 times how much dollar amount he sells. At least means greater than or equal to 1,500. So there's our equation. 1,200 plus 0.04x is greater than or equal to 1,500. So there's our inequality. Subtract 1,200 from both sides. Cancel 0.04x. It's got to be greater than or equal to 300. Divide by 0.04. X is greater than or equal to. We take 300 and divide it by 0.04. And we'll get 7,500. So the salesperson must sell at least $7,500 worth of stereo equipment each month. That's a lot of stereo equipment. So as you can see, inequalities aren't that much different from equations. You have to remember things such as if you're multiplying or dividing by a negative number, your inequality sign switches. And you have to remember what at most and at least stand for. But pretty much they're solved in the same way that two-step equations are solved.